body is changing literally in this pool of energy that we're engulfed in. Your negative energy, not to get into this new age crap, garbage, but we all are made up by electromagnetic energy, radiation, particles, etc. When you have this negative thing, in other words, God knows what you're thinking. He knows what you're going to do. And it affects your body. It literally affects your body physically. And you can feel it. It's like the Holy Spirit of God and the force of God is like we're rocks in a pond, in a pool. Including where the stars and the suns and so forth and all the other stars are located. When they move around, it affects this pool of water we can call free energy. Now you want to get physical about it and get into physics. You change the frequency ever so much and you can go in another dimension. Literally. But our bodies as humans cannot do that because we aren't copper-based. God has to change our bodies to be able to ascend or to go to hell. Our bodies change. Now when you die, your soul will be with God. Your bodies will die. They go to dust. But in the days of the judgment, God will bring your body back together with his will. Say, hey body, hey soul, hey, boy, I missed you. Yeah, well, here I am. It will be a different creation, a different body, but you will be you. The same body, but with a different composition, a different creation, recreation, if you will. No, not reincarnation. That's buttermilk. You see how this works? So, when you are saved, truly saved, and you feel that tingling going on, and you feel God, and you say, you know, I really got tingly, that's the Holy Spirit tingling your particles. He's tickling your particles. He's letting you know he's there. That is the hand of God touching you. Or that's an angel there watching you. It is supernatural what we're dealing with. That's amazing. Now I'm going to do something for you. Chemtrails. Chemtrails are changing DNA. I explained that last week, basically, on the layman's terms. They're trying to change the DNA. They tried to change the DNA before Noah in order to thwart the birth of the Christ and kill the bloodline. Didn't work. The flood fixed that. And you don't think God's going to fix it again? Come on. You see how this works. Now, if it mingled science with, quote-unquote, your religion, if you want to call it that, or the spiritual warfare, it is inextricably linked together. This is the purpose of my broadcast, is to bring together that spiritual and world connection together. They are connected. So now you know. If they change the DNA, they're hoping to reduce the number of the 144,000. They're looking for the 144,000, the 12,000 from each of the exiled tribes that are going back to Jerusalem. Be ready for that. Because British Israel is there now, not the real Jews at all, not remotely. There will be a replacement. And Jesus Christ will see to it. The 144,000, they're trying to find them using DNA and frequency identifying. I'm not sure how that works exactly. HAARP has a lot to do with it, I suppose. Blood typing, the Mormons, they keep track of data bank. I'm sure the Jesuits do too. Somehow that's intermingled with a supercomputer, if you want to get scientific about it. Everybody's blood type is already taken and they know which tribe you belong to. It gets more detailed than that. They want to reduce the number of the 144,000 to slow this process down. They want to bring time backwards. That's why they're going backwards counterclockwise in Mecca around that cube. Cube is Saturn. Saturn is part of Saturnalia worship. Oh, by the way, you'll learn some of that tonight on CJ's show. I highly advise you listen to about Saturnalia worship. Worship of Saturn. Oh, and you thought it was the sun, didn't you? Saturn is the power source, if you will, of Satan. Is this the real seat of Satan? I don't know. They say it is. I don't know. Either way, he's going to get his butt kicked, put down in the bottomless pit when his time comes. I don't really care. But it's good to know, at least basically, how this works. This is how it works, actually. Okay. You know, we're going to sort of shift a little bit, but it's still part of this agenda. All depressions, all inflationary periods, and all recessions are controlled like you control a budget and a checkbook. And it started with Federal Reserve Board. You know the story there at Jekyll Island, and so forth and so on. Some of the information I give you comes from my heart and my spirit, and then I find it in evidence. And sometimes you're not going to find the evidence. If you're looking for evidence for every little thing, we'll keep on looking. Keep on looking until God comes and takes them away, and or the tribulations start. It's going to be a little too late. One side note, if you will. I'm going to continue here. But for those that's listening, phone only, you can call 1-858-216-3403. You can find it in several books. I think it's on my webpage, www.nwofighters.org. I've got a list of references I use, and it's actually just a small list of references I use, but 21 November 1933, the Great Depression was used to set up the necessary conditions to foment a coup of the U.S. government by some very angry and highly ticked off World War I veterans that were not getting their bonuses. Their bonuses was held back on purpose to make them mad in order that they would revolt and they would march. In this case, peacefully, as they surrounded D.C. and their tent cities. President Hoover ordered Major Patton, Major MacArthur, under the command of Major General, General, I don't remember what general he was, but General Blackjack Pershing, to rout them out, former veterans. Now, would that make you mad as a veteran? Yeah, my own people, my own fellow troopers routing me out and sticking me with a bayonet and running me away, and would that not make for a good revolution? Then a well-trusted general in the Marine Corps that everybody loved, he had 2 Medal of Honors, and a good spokesman, and everybody, and he was trustworthy, would lead you 500,000 strong, literally was the plan against D.C., surrounded, subjugate, and or kill FDR. That was the plan offered to Major General Smedley D. Buller in a hotel room by 3 of the globalists. $60,000 they offered him. He led them on for a year and a half, and he found out who was involved on the high level, and he blew the whistle. God had a hand in that. It wasn't time yet. It was one of those finger shaking to Lucifer. No, 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 no. You can't do this. It must be so frustrating for these people, these Luciferians, to have God already knowing what's going to go on. But a lot of them are lied to by Lucifer. But anyway, 21 November, and we do have November coming up this year too, by the way, hint, hint. 21 November 1933, a letter written by FDR to Colonel House. I quote. I love quotes. The Depression was a calculated shearing of the public by the world money powers, triggered by the planned sudden shortage of supply of call money in the New York money market. The one world government leaders and their ever-close bankers have now acquired full control of the money and credit machinery of the United States via the creation of the privately owned Federal Reserve Bank. Curtis Dahl, FDR's son-in-law, quoted in his book, My Exploited Father-in-Law. And it was in the same letter by FDR in 1933, written by FDR to Colonel House. Oh yeah, the same Colonel House that was the alter ego of Woodrow Wilson, who formed the League of Nations, the forerunner of the United Nations, of a world government. Anyway, this same Colonel House and FDR, buddy, the real truth of the matter is, as you know and I know, that a financial element in the larger centers has owned the government ever since the days of Andrew Jackson. Why Andrew Jackson? I'll tell you why. Because Andrew Jackson was the only president in our entire history. Don't even think about calling Bob Clinton. Andrew Jackson was the only president in our history that balanced the budget in order to rout them out. He didn't do it by an army. He didn't do it by revolution. He did it by balancing the budget. He cut their strings. Oh, but Rothschilds got a little ticked off, and they come up with the War of 1812, and we'll show those colonists, which we still are colonists, by the way, and they reestablished financial control, War of 1812. In 1814, we took a little, you see what I'm saying? And then we invaded into Mexico, and they set up the Alamo to make sure they died. The government did. To make sure the people at Alamo died, David Crockett, all of them died, so we'd have a call to arms. That's why they never provided them support. They later settled with the hierarchy of Mexico, by the way. This was all pre-planned, way planned ahead. Now they're getting ready for the Civil War. And you've heard me talk about this before. I won't go there right now because it's going to take up some time, but you've heard me talk about it. It's all pre-planned as in a chess game. As a matter of fact, William G. Carr wrote Pawns in the Game. You can download it, actually, or you can buy it, whichever you prefer. It tells you all about it. But no, nobody wants to hear it. Nobody wants to know. Everybody wants to continue this belief of the first veil in the veil of understanding, not to get past that first veil. And you think it's hard between the first and the fifth veil. Ho-ho! Try to go into the sixth. Yeah. And then you got to listen to these yahoos like David Icke, Mason, and how they distort it. Oh, he tells part of the truth. 80% truth, like Alex Jones, Lindsey Williams, all them. They'll tell you 80-90% truth, but then they deviate. Will they know they're being used or not? I don't know. Don't care. They need to find out and they need to learn. They're responsible to do that. David Hodges wrote a very good article. I listen to him off and on. He wrote a very good article called Coastal Residents Under Siege, Pentagon Papers, in September 2010. I read, Dave interviewed Rosalind Peterson, a former USDA official, regarding the Operation Red Flag, and David Hodges reported Red Flag as a 5-year war game, which is posing enormous and catastrophic health effect for residents of every coastal state bordering the Pacific, Atlantic, and the Gulf. Planned depopulation, a coup d'etat, or a punishing subjugation of the American. Each listener is left to answer the question, and the interview is, you can find Dave Hodges, and the subject is treason and sedition. Well, it's a good interview, it's a good article. 5-year war game. You know, they're moving reservist headquarters, and they have all these exercises going on that most of you in the know already are aware of. In November, the FCC is going to conduct some sort of exercise nationwide of the Mercy broadcast system. in November the 9th or 11th or something like that, whatever.